busy day on the Texans Collective. Lots to get to. Reggie Atatula from Sports Radio 610's In the Loop. Landry Locker from the Locker Room and SNL Texans Talk, where I also am on SNL Texans Talk. And, of course, Houston Football with Cody Stutes. That's me. Sean Pendergast, we traded him for a pick in the upcoming Collective draft because it's a day of trading for the Houston Texans. Two moves, one sending Tytus Howard to the Cleveland Browns, the other one acquiring David Montgomery. We'll talk about all of that. What else is left to be done for the Texans free agency just a week away? But, gentlemen, let's start with the early morning move. I don't know if Tytus Howard was even up yet. He was traded to the Cleveland Browns. Your initial reaction, Landry, to Tytus Howard and being shown the door and headed to Cleveland for a fifth-round pick?
His biggest asset was his versatility. I don't know that he's really extremely good at guard or tackle, but his versatility allowed them to do what they did last year. I think it's a good move. My fear was that they were going to consolidate the debt that they'd already built with Tytus Howard and give him a contract similar to the one that the Browns gave him, which I thought was the most surprising thing from the whole thing. So I anticipate that this is just the beginning. I don't think they do this without having a rather significant plan in place. But I think it's fine. The Tytus Howard move. I think the versatility was valuable, but they gotta now think long term, and they gotta find five guys that can do whatever they're asked to do really, really well.
I hear you on that, Landry. The only thing that scares me is you sound a lot like how we were talking about Tytus Howard. Or not, sorry, Tytus Howard is who you got traded this year. Laremy Tunsil last year, right? We did then. You go, all right. It feels like these are things that you do this and you have an idea for what's coming. Yeah, there's an opportunity to invest. And they kind of went to the bargain bin a whole bunch. And that is the only thing that scares me, is that in recent history, in the record of the Texans, they have handled this where they make a move that you go, I can see how this happens if so, this, that, and the third happens afterwards. And they didn't do this, that, and the third on the backside of that. That being said, does that then, because they had that experience and because they had, yes, improvement on the offensive line, but not to the degree that they wanted, have they changed their stripes? Have they decided that they're going to be more aggressive? And I think that the other trade would point to the idea that they will be at least somewhat more aggressive. Yeah. I have that caution within me to say, oh, well, I definitely think that this is not the only thing that they do, and that the next things that they will do will absolutely answer the call in the appropriate way. I have a little bit of trepidation, but I think you're right in this, that this is not the end. Like, this isn't a terrifying move, especially if you were having any questions on what to do with extending him.
Looking at Howard in just a box, it's going to say a team that has two starters that they needed to fill now has three starters they need to fill on the offensive line. This move obviously has to, be part of a larger movement on this offensive line to overall improve it. One of the longest tenured Texans, and as Landry mentioned, I don't know exactly how good Tytus Howard actually was at any of these things that he did. It's nice to have a player like that. And if a week plus from now we're looking up and the Texans haven't done something significant and important on the offensive line, you will think to yourself, yeah, why didn't they just keep Tytus Howard for one more year? Because you could have just played out 2026 and let the contract expire for Tytus Howard and then gone in a different direction. But it's clear the Texans felt like they needed to go in a different direction now, and they're going to overhaul this offensive line yet again. And a line that had a bunch of new starters heading into 2025 is going to have a bunch of new starters heading into 2026. And yeah, I'm a little skeptical of their ability to do it because of what they did last year, but I feel like we are getting the signs that it's not going to quite be the same as last year. At least I certainly hope not, because that's not going to make anybody happy. And if you sign a bunch of guys for a little bit of money that are they're not anywhere close to as good as Tytus Howard is, not that Howard's a real good player, we'll be sitting here like, well, why'd you move him for a fifth-round pick? That was dumb.
And there's been a lot of whispers that they want Ursery on the right side. And I don't know how people feel about that, but you go back to scouts. I know you kind of, I don't want to speak for you, Reggie. I'm pretty sure you respect Brian Broaddus's work. Like, when it comes to this, he's kind of one of my film nerds that I lean on. He said he thought he would be at right tackle. And then at the combine, you're actually hearing a lot of whispers that the Texans might want to move Ursery back at right tackle. So I don't know what that means. I will say, if that is the line of thinking, making this move kind of shapes up. because Tytus Howard's a right tackle or a left guard or a left guard, right guard, wherever they want to put him. So if that is their plan, then this would maybe make a little bit more sense with the Tytus Howard decision. And then the question is, who do you put on the left side? Which is not a great world to live in.
Yeah, I actually don't think Ursery to the right side matters at all in the Tytus Howard conversation, because I don't think Tytus is going to play tackle. I think he was going to play guard. And unless they're filling that left tackle spot with something awesome, I'd be content to just keep Ursery. And I don't want a rookie at left tackle. I'd rather a rookie play right tackle and let Ursery have another crack at it at left tackle. Obviously, Landry and I, you've talked about you and I have talked about Trent Williams. And if Trent Williams becomes available, yeah, I don't care who you need to move. You move heaven and earth to put him over at left tackle for the Texans. Figure out the other 4 spots because your left tackle spot's taken care of. But I don't know that Howard matters a ton in the Ursery movement, because Howard definitely wasn't going to play left tackle, and I don't think he's going to play right tackle either.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you there. I probably thought he was more of a guard at this point. But again, the versatility that was there, I kind of like that going into this time where you have a lot of things that you need to, make decisions on. And I guess in a way you create a little bit of flexibility by opening up the spot entirely, I guess is one thing that you could say. But no, I think the thing that I continue to think about within the Tytus Howard movement is CJ Stroud, right? If you have any level of concerns about how his confidence in the offensive line, you're going to need to be incredibly aggressive and hope that actually builds a level of confidence in him, right? There's a question, I guess, to be asked if he can be shaken in that confidence, how much do you want him as your quarterback? But I think there's a lot of people, at least in the fan base, depending on how you view the criticism, that go, CJ Stroud definitely has been impacted by the lackluster offensive line, for lack of a better way of saying it. And you took maybe one of the few dudes that you can trust on this offensive line to whatever degree, and you moved him on. And now it means that you absolutely need to get proven guys in free agency or in a trade that have played the position, and probably at the important ones as well, because as much as I look at this draft and I go, the tackles that are available, they all played on the left side. I don't know how much you want a starting left tackle to be a rookie again in the second year for CJ Stroud, that you want to see if he has the goods in the way that you would want to pay $50 million a year.
And I think that's interesting. I think you bring up a really good point, Reggie, in that Tytus Howard's versatility not only allowed them to really just adjust accordingly last year, almost like at a flawless level. It also, like in the offseason, it kind of, at least the way I was looking at it was, well, if you like this guard more than you like this tackle, then you can get this guy and you can move Tytus here and here. So it kind of eliminates your versatility when it comes to the offseason. I agree with that. That is something that I think that they have a plan. I hope that they have a plan. I know hope is not a plan, but that is another element of this that I do think is interesting. Is it's the versatility of not just in season but off season for the Texans when it comes to building this O-line.
Hey, maybe they're going to go into the season with 5 guys that play one position each, and they're each going to be at their position like, I don't know, half the freaking league does every year. And they're not going to just try to pussyfoot around for half a season and try to figure some things out and rotate left guards and start City So and move Ariante Ursery from the right tackle, left tackle in the first 2 weeks of the season. And like, maybe they'll operate like, I don't know, all the other offensive lines in the National Football League. If they just have 5 guys, and this guy's a left tackle, and this guy's a left guard, and this guy's a center, and this guy's a right guard, and this guy's a right tackle, and that's the position they play. Wouldn't that be nice? I'd like to know week 1 that those 5 guys are the guys. Obviously, Howard's versatility was important when guys got dinged up, when guys got hurt. That's super important. I'd love to have a versatile backup tackle for this team. I'd love to have a versatile interior offensive lineman. Maybe that is Jarrett Patterson already on this team, could play a little bit of center for you, could play a little bit of guard for you. But I'd love that. But I'd also love just 5 guys that know their positions, that are starting, and they're going to start at those positions. Reggie, the CJ confidence thing, I do wonder if this is one of those things where it's like, you got to almost, if you're the organization, say, don't worry. I know we've had some troubles here, but we got better from 24 to 25, and we're going to get even better from 25 to 26. And Stroud has talked about it before. Sometimes you have blind faith in management. I wonder if this is one of those, again, blind faith situations for CJ where, hey, I may not know the plan. They've they're telling me that they have a plan. I just got to go with it. And when I get here in June to go do OTAs with them, I got to trust that those 5 guys are going to block better than the 5 guys I had last year.
Big up to CJ Stroud if he is a big enough man to go into this particular offseason with that kind of blind trust. I mean, look, maybe I'm making too much of a deal of this. It's quite possible. The quarterback coach who he is very close with leaves this offseason, right? We've had the offensive line thing over year, right? It seems like
did he leave or did he leave?
However way, like he is no longer in that position there, right? He's not going to get his extension this offseason. I think if we all are correct in the way that this is happening. Look, CJ Stroud, he's a man of God and all that, and he is doing a great job of being a practitioner of that. If he goes into this offseason, it's like, I'm just blindly trusting this management. Because again, I mentioned it, maybe I'm leaning too much on it, but even last year, they were in this place with the offensive line, and the outcome was fine, I guess. It needs to be significantly better than fine going into this year.
My question is, do you feel like CJ Stroud has been failed? Like that's really, because it feels like you're saying that you feel like it almost feels like Deshaun, where Deshaun was, I feel like Deshaun was failed before all the other stuff happened where, you traded DeAndre Hopkins, the offensive line got worse. You had Jack Easterby. Do you feel that way? Because I'll say this, it's clear that Nick Caserio doesn't, because he was very defensive about everything from the offensive line to the tight end to the receivers to the running back. There's only one thing left on offense that he's not really defensive about. Now, he said it's moronic to think that you're going to trade him in 2026. I don't look at that as like a glowing endorsement like he did everything else. So do you feel like they've failed CJ?
I think that's a really good question, because clearly not to the level of Deshaun Watson. Like, that's entirely different here. Sorry to kind of equivocate here, but I don't know how much it matters if I feel like it has. Could CJ Stroud feel like he has been failed is a question that I think is worth asking. There's something to be said for the improvement that you saw from this offensive line, simply being them deciding we're going to get the ball out quicker, which is less improving the offensive line and more covering the offensive line in some ways. So like all of those things, especially when you are in it and where you're up close to it, I can see how that weighs on you, especially once you get to a place where now you are the joke of the NFL, and you could easily look around and be like, damn, well, it ain't all me around here,
And I always, my analogy with this, Reggie, whenever we're arguing offense, is always restaurants can have bad service and bad food. Like it doesn't, like there's not like a pick a line in the sand type of thing. So yeah, it can be a combination of, CJ not doing what they put him in position to do and them not putting him in the best position. Because I think we were probably a week away from having these types of discussions. I think the CJ just doing what he did, it kind of took away from it to where all the attention's on CJ, and it's like, maybe there's a little bit of balance there.
I would say I firmly am in they could have done better category for CJ, but I'm also in the category of CJ had enough to not go into the Patriots game and absolutely wet the bed and cost the Texans their best crack at an AFC championship and a Super Bowl the franchise has ever had. So both of them can be right. Both of them can be wrong. And unfortunately for CJ Stroud, your feelings are a little bit lower on the care meter because you're a little bit lower in the QB rankings than we believed you were. And so as you move up the QB rankings, as you play better, I feel like the organization will care a little bit more about your feelings. But right now, you just got to take care of your stuff, your CJ. Your eyes on your own paper, CJ. Make sure that you're ready to go. And if you look good and the other 10 guys look bad, everyone will see it. But if you're one of the 11 guys looking bad on offense, you're going to get a little bit more than everybody else. That's Tytus Howard. That's the trade for him. They got a 5th-round pick. It's the first selection in the 5th round. It's the 139th overall pick. But Nick Caserio and the Texans were not done. Hours later, they called the Detroit Lions. They sent a 4th-round pick, a 7th-round pick, and Juice Scruggs to the Lions and acquired running back David Montgomery. Reggie, what was your initial reaction to David Montgomery as the new running back for the Texans?
I was very intrigued by this acquisition because I like that Nick Caserio looked at the market, and this is something that he's done before, looked at the market and was like, I'm not fighting with y'all. I will give up the capital where I know what the cost is. My dad has a saying when it comes to cars. You can get it. You can get a new car. You can get a used car. Every car has its car note. You just don't know when a used car note comes up, because you've all gotten that used car where then all of a sudden you wouldn't think about it, but 12 months into you having it, the transmission is shot, and now you have a big old check on it. I think that's the way that he probably looked at free agency, where it's like, all right, this is getting to be somewhat slim pickings. There's a lot of teams out here. Only God knows what the actual cost is going to be to make sure that we bring this home. Right. And if you listen to Nick Caserio on the way he's talked about free agency, at least offensive line, when people were hitting him over the head for not doing more on the offensive line, he's like, look, man, it takes two to tango in essence. So that sounds like we got out here, we gave good offers, and all of a sudden the price was higher than we thought. You know, when you know exactly what the price is up front, baby, you said a 4, you said a 7, you said juice. Okay, boom. That's what it is. And you get this running back who you have control of. You also know exactly what he's going to give you. He is a mature dude. I think he fits in with the locker room. He brings all of these swarm elements in that he runs hard and all of those types of things. He's a great locker room dude. I like that as a thought process. The only thing I went with is, how high of a talent is he as a running back? Or does this instantly become more of a tandem between him and Woody Marks as a 1A, 1B type element?
Yeah, for me, I think Walker was on a different price bracket, but I look at this trade as really what you gave up and what you're giving up for David Montgomery, depending on what happens with his contract. Wouldn't shock me if they gave him more guaranteed money. It's really right up there on par with anyone below Kenneth Walker. I think it's pretty. I think they looked at this and they said, I don't know if it was as much about avoiding the market as much as it was they sat down, they discussed Montgomery, they discussed Algier, they discussed ETN, and they discussed all the other running backs, and they like David. They like David Montgomery the best. That's how I look at how they are. Now, I do find myself in a dangerous territory because on one hand, the value seems a little bit high, especially given the fact that he wanted to be here, especially given the fact they gave up a 7th for Joe Mixon. On the other hand, the market was a lot different 2 years ago at running back. It was one of the most insane running back markets that there was. So I know Caserio likes to talk about markets. There's kind of that. But I will say, like, a 4th round pick, I don't think it's anything to yawn at, especially with the way that the Texans function on draft day, where a lot of times that 4th round pick gets you up into the 2nd round. A lot of time that 4th round pick gets you up into the 3rd round. You get a baller. Oh, by the way, in 2 of the last 4 seasons, your leading rusher has been, say it with me, a 4th round pick, rookie. So I do think, like, maybe it's just me coming from being at the combine and being in kind of draft nerd mode and transitioning into this. Maybe I'm just a little bit too infatuated with 4th round picks, but I don't think this was bargain shopping by any stretch of the imagination. I think this is an example of them liking David Montgomery more than any running back not named Kenneth Walker and going out and paying the price.
It felt a little pricey. Certainly the initial report of a 5th round pick after you just got the top pick in the 5th round, that felt pricey. And then it got even pricier when it was a 4th round pick. Now, I'm sure there will be someone, maybe even Nick Caserio, that'll kind of spin it. Well, we traded Tytus and we moved down 11 spots, and that was the cost of getting David Montgomery. Sure, you could spin it that way if you'd like. My big thing about what they decided to do here is they're clearly not shopping at the top for another running back. They might draft one. They might add another free agent, but they're not going to go get Kenneth Walker. They're not going to go get Rico Dowdle. They're not going to get Travis Etienne. They're not going to get Tyler Algier. How many of those guys are, for you, better than David Montgomery? To me, Etienne's better but different. Walker's obviously better for me. And I would think Rico Dowdle is better than David Montgomery. Could you have used money to get one of those guys, use the draft pick to do something else for your roster, either select somebody as a rookie or use that as a pick to move around? And could you have still maximized that running back room? That would have been my big thing. And I also think 2 years ago, the running back market and how the Texans were treated in the running back market may have affected things. If you believe the rumors, they had a competitive offer for Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley picked the Philadelphia Eagles. He wanted to play the Giants twice a year, and he wanted to be in that state. Okay, well, the Texans could have gone higher or maybe even were higher, and Barkley wasn't picking them. And so I wonder if there was a little bit of worry for Nick Caserio. Hey, if I chase Kenneth Walker, I miss on Kenneth Walker. By the time I find out all the other backs are gone, and then I'm sitting here with nothing. Like, I do wonder if that was a little bit of worry. What happened 2 years ago scared him away from actively participating in the free agent running back market. And the big ultimate element is if you budgeted for a big free agent running back and you kind of got, from a financial money spend standpoint, a little bit of a discount on what you thought you were going to spend money-wise, obviously there's a draft pick attached to him. I wonder if you just automatically repurpose that into another position in free agency. That's what I think we all want to see is, hey, you saved a little bit of spending cash-wise on Montgomery. Hopefully that's going to the offensive line that are blocking for it.
How much did you really save, though, is my thing. Like, I don't know. My bad, Reg. How much cash do you think you saved?
Well, if you thought you were trying to get Kenneth Walker and you got David Montgomery.
Outside of Walker, though, like, if they like Algier more than Montgomery and they think that they're like saving some sort of value here, for me, that's kind of concerning. That just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So I don't know how much cash you're saving. Like, Algier is apparently seeking what, 3 years, 22.
But Montgomery's better than Algier for me. Okay,
well then that might be the case for them too.
I think Montgomery's absolutely a better running back than Tyler Algier.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely he's got more of a body of work for sure.
I believe that Dowdle, ETN, and obviously Walker and obviously Breece Hall, which he's not going to be true free agency, they're all going to have numbers that are higher than David Montgomery. I don't know how much bigger Rico Dowdle's is going to be. That's the guy that I really kind of point to is like, could you have kept the fourth and got Rico? You trade the fourth, you get David Montgomery. But anything that you saved, again, my thought was they were chasing Kenneth Walker, and I was told at the combine they were in on Kenneth Walker. Anything you saved on budgeting for Kenneth Walker, rebudget that into the offensive line.
Yeah, that's absolutely the way that I viewed this was, hey, if you're going to these trades have to be viewed in tandem, not just because they came down to us within a span of 3 hours, but also because like of that right there, right? You had two positions that it felt like you needed to go hard at in this offseason, particularly before you get to the draft. And you answered one of them through trade, and you opened up another spot on the offensive line through trade. So it feels like all of that free agent money and possibly even some more draft capital needs to be used to that offensive line. You isolate that, you focus on that, you hit it hard over the next few weeks before we get to that place. One thing I would want to say about David Montgomery compared to the other options, it does feel like he overlays really well. Because also, what was one of the biggest talking points that we had all season long was red zone. Buddy, I feel a lot better without knowing an offensive line, which is a crazy thing to say, right? But I feel a lot better just in the abstract if I can put a running back in a vacuum with David Montgomery up there. Besides, I think compared to most any of the other guys outside of Christian or Kenneth Walker when we talk about the free agent running back. So I do think that probably factors in as well.
Well, I can't wait because they have David Montgomery to just all of a sudden continue to run the football in short yardage. At least he's the type of guy that can make the offensive line right in some of the short yardage stuff. Look, if you took David Montgomery and inserted him in place of Woody Marks and Nick Chubb last year in some of those short yardage situations, yeah, I believe the Texans certainly convert that more than the guys that they ran out there. I believe in his ability to convert short yardage without knowing the offensive line more than Woody Marks. He's not a slouch from a pass catching standpoint either. I believe since he got in the league, he's somewhere in the top 10 of receiving yards amongst running backs. Hasn't done it as much in the time in Detroit, but it's something that's in his skill set. And then the overlap, you mentioned it, Reggie, with Woody Marks. This should improve Woody Marks. This should make him a better football player. This should hopefully keep him from limping off the field every game because you're not using him as a battering ram when he should be a little bit more of a pass-catching running back. That's another element of this. But I would also say any significant running back investment was going to make Woody Marks better, regardless of the skill position overlap.
Yeah, I like this committee too. The other thing, and I am calling it a committee, I think these guys can do everything. Like, I don't think either one of them are limited. Like, as far as if you need them both to be in pass pro, I think they can do a good job. I think they can both catch the ball. So a lot of times when we think of committees, it's like thunder and lightning, or, this guy, like this is like a balance. I do think that they probably still need to maybe kick the tires on like one of the young guys. But the one thing that I think we can all agree on, regardless of how you feel about Montgomery, Algier, whoever, ETN, is you did not want to head into this draft needing running back as one of your top needs. If this were last year, then we can have a discussion and we might just be sitting here talking about Winshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson, will Omarion Hampton be there? RJ Harvey, this kid, like this is not that.
No.
And that it was very apparent before, but when you walked in the room and just kind of were in the room with the running backs, it was just like, yeah, this isn't great.
So is this Big Orange confirmed now? Now that we got yet another Iowa State cat into is that what we're doing here, fellas?
Reggie, come on, you got to get the nickname right. It's the Big Citrus, Dominique Orange. Okay.
I mean, I feel like Big Orange sounds better than the Big Citrus, the Big Orange. You know what I mean?
I would also think if I was Charlie Kolar's agent when free agency starts, he's a free agent tight end that can block a little bit that went to Iowa State. I'd be close to the phone. They love the Cyclones here in Houston. Yeah, David Montgomery. Not exactly the Iowa State running back most people wanted the Texans to go get, but he is a worthwhile running back addition. I do have one thing that I want to ask about the running back spot. And it's easy to play hindsight knowing what it cost. If you'd known that David Montgomery cost a 4th, a 7th, and a backup player that you were maybe going to cut anyway.
I know where this is going.
Would you have just traded the 3rd last year for Breece Hall?
Ooh.
The Jets reportedly wanted a 3rd-round pick for Hall. He would have been on your team last year. He'd have been the best running back for your team last year. You'd have gotten an opportunity to figure out if he's a long-term option. Now, obviously, he could have left in free agency, and you would have spent a 3rd-round pick essentially for half a season of a running back. But and again, we're in very much in hindsight because at the time, I didn't want them to use the 3rd-round pick that they had, which is the 69th overall selection. Now, I didn't want them to use that 3rd-round pick on Breece Hall, but I also thought Breece Hall was going to hit true free agency and they'd be interested. The Jets are being weird, and he's not.
In fairness, the cost it goes beyond just the draft comp. Like obviously, like if it were just draft comp and the salaries were equal, then yeah, I guess I would give up a 3rd if I have to give up a 4th and 7th for Montgomery. But I mean, obviously, Breece Hall's gonna demand more money than what
he might make close to, not quite double, but he might make 1.5 what Montgomery makes this year.
Yeah, so it's a little bit. It's an interesting thought though.
Yeah, I don't know. I almost went yes, but the idea of getting that dude in. Also, when you say knowing what we know, we also know that CJ Stroud is going to shit the bed in the playoffs, right? How much is the running back actually going to fix that, right? So, no, yeah, the cost, the paying on both sides always is something that I am hard to stomach in some ways. And that's something that I don't know if they were going to be able to make happen straight up. But it's a good thought. And it definitely would have made us a lot happier down the stretch just talking about some of this.
Pretty heavily invested in running back room for it to kind of be a question mark at running back room. It certainly feels better than what they finished the season with, but Montgomery cost a 4th and a 7th and whatever his salary is. Woody Marks cost you a future 3rd and using a 4th-round pick on him. And we're pretty sure it's a good enough running back room, but I don't think we're all the way to the point where we'd say, yeah, that's a good running back room the Texans can win a lot of football games with.
It does feel like they're putting a lot of trust in Woody Marks here, right? I think that a lot of people had talked about this as if you're going to get a dude who kind of pushes Woody Marks back to a straight up 2. It seems like there's some level of respect from the organization going, we saw you, young fella, and we're not just getting someone to take all your snaps. You're still coming along here. This dude is coming along with you. And I think that as much as you guys are talking about, obviously you're out of the top end of the running back pool. I think also this don't stop no show. You still have to be committed to, because 2 years, 18, is that what we're looking at? Yeah, 2 years, 18 million with the remaining of the contract for David Montgomery. Yeah, I think you still need to be cognizant of for now, that before they do any level of addition or augmentation of that contract, as they are so want to do. But you still got to be thinking about what is the future of the running back position with this team anyways, because this is relatively temporary.
Yeah, and this does feel like, I don't want to say tread water, but this does feel kind of like a tread water year at running back, because I don't know. I don't want to make like an extreme blanket statement and say, this is perhaps the most unflattering running back market when you combine draft and free agency of my entire time following football, but it's close, man. It's like I don't remember the opportunity being this low. And I don't know if it's maybe kids are staying in school more. Running backs stay an extra year. I don't know. It does feel like prospects are getting older. But it does for the draft, from a draft standpoint, I think it's as bad as it's been. Typically you go into a draft and you hear the assumption that you can just find a back. You're gonna have to tell me who after the first one. I don't know where that's going.
Yeah, 2 years ago, it wasn't a super strong running back class, but you had an incredible free agency class with a lot of different names and guys getting cut and moved and stuff like that. So, yeah, it feels like it's a pretty, you temper your expectations for free agency with these free agents and how much money they're going to make, and it seems like massive overpays are coming. And then certainly, I have medium to low expectations for this draft from a running back perspective. And, Breece Hall's not in the plans for the Texans. He's not within shouting distance of what the Texans can get. So, if you could get him, that solves a lot of stuff, but you're not getting him. That's part of the reason David Montgomery is on this team. Talk about the offensive line. We'll talk about, you got one more thing, Reggie?
Wait, just to make it explicit, Joe Mixon completely done.
He's gone.
Clean your locker out, man.
Casario said it.
Yeah.
He said it. You didn't catch it. He said it on the side. He said it.
Yeah.
I asked him, hey, how important is the running back position? And Casario goes, well, we got 3 guys under contract. So obviously it's pretty crucial. We got British Brooks. We got Jawar Jordan. And we got Woody Marks. Well, you actually have 4, but yeah, thank you for telling us what we already knew, sir.
Yeah, I would expect that to come down any day now. And with it, about $8 million in cap savings with Joe Mixon. So I'd expect that to come down.
Yeah. What are they waiting for? What are they waiting for?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know. Maybe there's paperwork that they're filling out, hey, this guy got hurt, see you later. This is what the doctor said. I also threw in that Mixon had another offseason surgery. I don't know. They're out of the Joe Mixon business. They're in the David Montgomery business with Woody Marks, and we'll see how that goes. And we'll have a very clear eye on how much the running backs get paid, but not because the Texans are chasing them in free agency. Still would love a little speed in that room. Not the fastest running back room we have ever seen.
Not the fastest running back draft when only 10 of 21 running backs decide to run the 40. It's kind of like, what are y'all hiding?
Wait, you mean if you don't run, you're slow?
I mean, you kind of want that pro day stopwatch, and I mean
the favorable coach.
And one of the 10 is Jeremiah Love, who, if anyone was not going to run the 40, it would be him. But he just said, "I'll just show you what I got."
Yeah, he could have been a cheerleader for his other running back mates in the draft class, and he's like, "No, actually, I'm pretty good. Let's make a few extra $1 million and try to climb this draft chart a little bit." Speaking of making a little extra, if you're successful on Prize Picks, you can make a little extra. All right, use the code Texans when you sign up at Prize Picks. You're gonna play your first $5. You get $50 in free lineups added to your account, and use your code Texans when you get signed up. And if you follow along with the collective, you can be a winner. Jeremiah Love speeds through his 40-yard dash. Caden Proctor, nice and slow for the big guy. And Reggie, I don't know where you dug up this soccer stuff, but Soccer Reggie came through for us. KC Concepcion, he was afraid to run, or we might have found ourselves making this flex play even more. But we turned 20 into 60 with 3 correct predictions on Prize Picks. It is that easy. Just more or less on rebounds, points, assists. That's just basketball. They've got hockey, tennis, soccer, Major League Baseball's right around the corner. You even want MMA, they've got it for you. Prize Picks is fantastic when it comes to a daily fantasy. More or less, put your predictions together. If you get them all correct, you're multiplying your money. It's a lot of fun to play, and use our code Texans when you get signed up. You play your first 5, you get $50 in lineups headed your way.
Cody, you got to remember, it's the offseason, man. I think the Soccer Reggie is going to – it's a bit. We need bits. You feel me? We put our community we put our
Prize Picks entry on the community page of this channel each and every week. So be following along, follow the channel, like, and subscribe, and you'll be able to see that each and every week. And follow along if you'd like. But we're on a little bit of a hot streak right now, so this is nice. It's nice. Soccer Reggie, you got to come up big again this weekend.
I got you.
So no Tytus Howard, Jake Andrews, and Ariante Ursary are starters from last year that are available to start again right now for the Texans. Jarrett Patterson is still in the building, and Blake Fisher is still in the building for whatever use that is. What's next for the offensive line? Where do you want them to go? What do you want them to do with this offensive line to make sure that they are better than what they were last year, and they can hopefully go a little bit further?
Trust King Cole. Trust King Cole. Cole Popovich, the king. That's what you got to do. Whatever Popovich wants to do. And that's really the glass half full. I've said this. If you are critical of what Nick Caserio's done when it comes to the offensive line, rightfully so. You lay out that resume, it's not good. Now, if you look at what Nick Caserio has done since Cole Popovich took over as offensive line coach, and it's obvious that they like Cole Popovich. They listen to his opinions. He's close with Nick Cayley. Nick Caserio seems to trust him. They're 1-for-1 when it comes to draft picks on the offensive line after a hellacious run. So you just trust King Cole Popovich. Whether that means Trent Williams is on the market and you figure that out, I don't know. But I think if you want to have hope on the offensive line, you just trust Cole Popovich and let him do what he do.
That's a really good point. And I'm hearing Trent Brown, more Trent Brown. No,
Wrong Trent, Reggie. Wrong Trent.
I think that as greedy as it sounds, and with the cautionary tale that is spending in free agency is a lot more rarely tied to success than we like to give it credit for. Hey, man, take that winnings, roll it back in, baby. Like we getting into this, I guess, for lack of a better term, gambling spirit. Hey, man, all of the free agency money that you were looking at, possibly using at running back, whatever those savings are, roll those in and make an even more aggressive offer for your lineman of choice, even including, the possible upgrade of Jake Andrews at center, right? Is it Cade? Is it Linderbaum? Like what is it? Take that in there and put up as aggressive of an offer as possible. I think that's where I would be okay with a little bit of an overpay, especially considering what you're looking at. I need at least one. I need at least one other grown up. And honestly, I would like to say two, just trying not to be too greedy, right? But I feel like you need to use this. So yes, obviously everything with Cole Popovich's approval. But if there's a Trent Brown or Trent Grant, all the Trents, there's a lot of Trents that we've had historically. The Williams one is the variety that I actually want to say right now. The Trent Williams, if he is actually available and wanting to show up, come on down, brother. I need verified football players on this offensive line, and you now have worked your way into a place where I think you can afford the money to stomach some of these.
And he will want to be here. Like if he's on the market, he will want to be here. Like he lives here, he trains here. It's a good team, so he would want to be. It's a matter of would they want him. I'm actually I think it's kind of interesting how the age comes up with Trent Williams. The one year that he missed a lot of games was 2024. It was a lost season. Like that was where it got away from the 49ers, and he missed, I think, 7 games. He played 16 games last year. Like, and you look at what the 49ers are like with versus without Trent Williams, it's actually kind of fascinating. He's also a guy who has made it very clear, and this is another thing that I've brought up pretty consistently. He said he wants to play football as long as he possibly and physically can. He's been saying that for like 3 years. So it's not like it's some guy who's like thinking about retiring and, he wants to play as long as possible. And he's also 1-of-1. So if you're ever comparing Trent Williams to anyone else, it's not a good thing to do because he's 1-of-1. There's not many like him. I think Will Campbell even said that when they asked about his favorite offensive lineman. He listed 5, and he said, I'm not going to list Trent Williams because Trent Williams is in his own category.
Well, it's funny you say that, Landry. Talking to the offensive lineman at the Combine over the weekend, if a tackle gave a list of players that he watched, Trent Williams was in there every time, and multiple guys called him the unicorn because he is 1-of-1. He's unique. He's special. And also multiple guys said, I'm telling you Trent Williams with the understanding that I can't be Trent Williams, but I still need to watch Trent Williams to figure out how the best at the position does it. So I thought that was a really good thing. That's something that could get solved, figured out prior to free agency, which will help you dictate the approach for the rest of the offensive line. Because obviously if you add Trent Williams because the 49ers move on from him, then Ariante Ursary is your right tackle. Now you're no longer looking at tackles, and it's primarily about guards and maybe a center upgrade. So that certainly gives you that opportunity. That would be my hope. If Trent Williams becomes available, you get clarity before free agency occurs so that you know how you want to attack things, where you want to attack things, and if you need to attack a tackle spot, because obviously you end up with Williams, you don't need to attack a tackle spot.
Here's the plan. You bring in Trent Williams, and then you bring back Laken Tomlinson, and Laken Tomlinson becomes a Pro Bowl guard again alongside Trent Williams, because that's how good Trent Williams is. He made Laken Tomlinson a Pro Bowler. I'm kidding, but I'm kidding. But I do think the Trent Williams, if he hits the market, it's a possibility. And this is the other part about this that I want to mention, going back to like the Tytus Howard thing. Eventually you have to say goodbye to good players as you start paying elite guys. And that's just kind of part of it. Like guys like Tytus Howard are the guys that you say goodbye to, and if you can swing for the fence and bring in a guy like Trent Williams, then you do that. But that's another thing. But I'm kidding about the Laken Tomlinson. I just wanted to mention that Trent Williams did make Laken Tomlinson a lot of money, and he did make him a Pro Bowler.
If Trent Williams ultimately does not end up as the left tackle for the Texans, which I'd say that's less likely than more likely for him being the left tackle, you have three spots and potentially maybe trying to upgrade the center spot to approach in free agency. Reggie, I know you said a minute ago, hey, you don't want to get too greedy. You'd love two. I'd love two really good players, even if they're a little bit older, just guys that still have a little bit of something to their game, just to lock in two spots. I don't want to trust too many young guys. I know you see three openings and you've got all these draft picks, and linemen might get pushed down the board because there's wide receivers making people excited and linebackers and all these other positions. I don't want to trust too many young guys. I'm pretty content to trust a young guy inside and maybe have a couple of vets at those other two spots. I'm also content to have two vets at guard and trust a young guy at right tackle with some of the right tackle talent that's in this draft. So I am being greedy. I do want him to go get two offensive linemen in free agency. Go get two guys that cost a lot of money, still got stuff left into their game. Not like last year when it's like, well, maybe Laken Tomlinson's not as bad as the Seahawks and the Jets thought he was. No, it turns out you're right. He wasn't as bad as they thought he was. He was worse.
I'm actually right there with you. Maybe I probably did fail to articulate myself properly. I think it's also worth noting something that we were actually talking about a little bit earlier. When you have a couple of targets that you're trying to land simultaneously in free agency, you leave yourself open to being disappointed and your plans being frustrated. And one of the things that also, so it's like, hey, answer some of these questions ahead of time. But then also, isn't this an organization that kind of likes to paper over all the spots before they get to the draft so they're not so beholden to the draft? You got 4 spots, my boy. Maybe you say 3 if you were confident with Jake Andrews. You got to start putting some dudes in these spots butts and seats before you ultimately go to the draft. Otherwise, you will find yourself chasing linemen. And this could be a really weird first and second round when it comes to linemen, either going early or sliding, and you have no idea really which. Maybe you do with intel, but I would much rather like have some things in set in place at a very high level early on.
You'd hate to be in a situation last year where you bargain shopped, you hoped something that was going to be an upgrade from a rookie standpoint got to you, and you sat there right there in the back part of the first round, and all the guys that would have been upgrades over the veterans, they were gone. You don't want to find yourself in that situation. Again, Reggie, I know you've done some window shopping. Do you have a name or two that the people should be thinking about? Because I know you've been window shopping.
What, free agency wise?
Yeah.
I mean, it's names that we've talked about a lot. If we're talking about guards, it's funny because the preeminent play that I remember for him was in his final game of the season versus the Texans, where Sheldon Rankins is running his ass over. But Isaac Seumalo, I'm still very intrigued in what he does, right? Like, he is a very good guard, even though that one time he got his ass pumped, right? But he is still a very good guard that I would be happy to have on this team. I think as much as we've talked about the moving the right tackle, if a Trent Williams thing is not a viable thing because we're operating on what happens over there with San Francisco, I think the Braden Smith thing is interesting to me. Like, I do like him as a tackle. You're not sold on it?
I just a neck and head injury ended the season last year.
Yeah, but he played a majority of his games this year as well, coming off of that.
Sure. And then, a guy leaving in free agency from a place he was comfortable in that has missed time due to mental health in the past. That's another element that's not a knee, a foot, an ankle that you have to think about with him that potentially causes him to miss time. I don't know how well. Cole Popovich doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's giving offensive linemen mental health days off.
That is a fair point.
It doesn't need to be a bunch of mental health days off in King Cole's land,
Yeah, but the thing that I think is the reason why he's leaving Indianapolis is because they've gotten younger at that position, so they can afford to let him go. In the same way we're talking about sometimes you got to let people go. This one feels like as close to the thing that I say never happens, which is teams letting good linemen go. This one feels as close to that circumstance with, again, the caveat that, again, teams rarely let good players go. And so you might have some bumps and bruises. There might be some baggage that comes with them. And that might be that he got sad a couple years ago, right? And you might have to find a way to traverse that. But he's really good at playing football, though, when he's doing it.
It was high-level OCD that kept him from, coming to work.
Well, I appreciate you bringing in the actual answer. As I thought it was really funny to just say he got sad, but you're right.
That's one way to do it. Okay, so the Houston Texans, we know about the offensive line needs. 3 spots that they could use a starter, maybe an upgrade for Jake Andrews if you want to go down that route. Running back was number 2 on most people's list. It goes down the list a little bit because of the addition of David Montgomery. Doesn't go away. Still love a speedy element there in the running back room. But what's moving up the list to get behind offensive line? Landry, I think there's a position on offense that you would
tight end. I mean, enough is enough with this. Like, this is it's borderline incompetence at this point to just do what they've done at the tight end position. Like, Cade Stover can't play. Like, maybe he comes back and there's like some magic in year 3, but that version of Cade Stover being your tight end 2, unacceptable. Brevin Jordan, quite frankly, has had 2 season-ending injuries in make-or-break years. That doesn't get any easier. It was prove-it year, season-ending injury. Then it was prove-it year after rehab, season-ending injury. You can't rely on that. Dalton Schultz, you're probably on the final year of the Dalton Schultz thing unless they do something crazy and extend that. The league is starting to have more and more 2 tight end sets. Nick Caley says he likes tight ends. John Carroll Jerry, I think he likes tight ends. He's kind of the right-hand man. So you need more tight ends, and there's a lot of opportunity in this draft for tight ends. Cade Stover and Brevin Jordan, I'm sorry, it's not going to cut it.
Yeah, the only thing that has stopped me on that front is that they're under contract as much. But I guess ultimately that does not have to be the way that this goes. Plus, also, does it not feel like Cade Stover was supposed to come in and be able to be the versatile tight end but more of the blocking one? If Cade Stover is one that you're willing to be like, all right, maybe we missed a little bit. This was the year of all the blocking tight ends getting a love, right? Like, this does feel like an opportunity for you to get one of those types of dudes who, is now in vogue that can get in here, handle his own inline, and find a name for himself. It feels like we are getting into the era where there's more of those. And I don't know if I've said it or asked it with you guys, how much of this offense that Nick Caley had was predicated on multiple tight ends that they just did not have an opportunity to get to. Making sure that you have the dudes, the horses to actually get out there and do that, I think is important. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, there's opportunity to improve at tight end in free agency. There's opportunity to improve at tight end via the draft. I'd love to have a long-term solution via some of these guys in the draft. And I don't need – that's the biggest thing here that you think you don't want to overthink it with the tight ends in the draft. I don't need a complete tight end. Have a discernible day one skill that I can put you on the field for. If you're an excellent pass catcher like Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt, awesome. I can put you on the field and you can catch the football right away. If you're an excellent blocker like Sam Roush from Stanford, even better. I can put you on the field right away, day one. You have a discernible skill. I don't know what Brevin Jordan is coming off of 2 serious injuries. And Cade Stover doesn't have a discernible skill. And then Dalton's like pretty good at receiving and you'd rather him not block. So upgrade this room. If there's room for a veteran that has a very discernible skill, do that. Go grab one of these blocking tight ends that one of these other teams has used for the past few seasons. Add him to the equation. As we've talked about, plan for in case the draft doesn't go your way, you do have an option. I'd love to see a veteran who's blocked and maybe blocked in some good offenses added to the equation, in addition to some of these upside tight ends in the draft. Because, I know you traded out a 4th-round pick. You've still got draft capital, and you're still going to be able to find some of these tight ends in this draft.
Yeah, and I just think that the equivalent of this, like what's happened at the tight end position, I just don't think that D'Amico would let that fly on defense. So at some point, you got to stop the lingering on the offensive side of the ball. Like Dameon Pierce lingered around for 4 years. Dare Gumbawale's creeping up on a half decade. Brevin Jordan, this is year 5. What's this going to be, year 5 or 6? And you have Cade Stover. I know D'Amico wasn't here for all of it, but you can't put what you put out there at tight end again 2 down. And I don't know that you're going to get what you got from Schultz last year. Nick Caserio said something like, "Oh, Dalton Schultz had a record-setting year. Must have missed that." Yeah, he did. What happened the year before that? After a good year, he kind of fell off. So it's kind of a seesaw there with Dalton Schultz. They have to get better at tight end. Good news is, unlike running back, a lot of opportunity. I like a lot of the names that you mentioned, Cody. And there's some good tight ends.
Well, and I'd go too, and I know we've talked primarily about offense. Like at some point, you have to add some bodies over there on the 2 deep for D'Amico Ryans on defense, and that's where, if you could solve some of these things in free agency on offense, maybe you can get some long-term stability at defensive tackle. Because for the second year in a row, we're sitting here a week out from free agency, and they've got 2 tight ends under contract, and they each expire at the end of the upcoming season. Like, at some point, you'd love to have a guy that's around for 3, 4, 5 years at defensive tackle. Now, maybe Tommy Togiai wants to go to the negotiating table again, and it can be that guy. I'd advise him not to. Go hit free agency, Tommy. But depth at linebacker, again, Azeez, Henry To'o, their contracts are up. In the secondary, less essential for depth because they seem to have a guy they want to try at the depth spot at cornerback, and maybe some depth at safety would be better, but I think you lean more veteran. But if you could solve some of these things on offense, or you find the right, small mid-level investment, they have the benefit of the doubt on defense. If you grabbed a guy that was pretty good somewhere else and he was a key backup for you, I'd have faith that he's going to be a good enough key backup over on defense. Can't say the same on offense.
And I also I always use a casino analogy. Like if you look at someone at the casino and they're playing red and they keep playing red and they bust twice, chances are if you walk by them the next day, they're going to be playing red again. Last year, the Texans, they invested it at safety twice. Like, we got to kind of read between those lines. Like, Jimmy Ward got a weird contract. D'Amico obviously values Jimmy Ward, but he values what he brings to the table, even with Petrie as kind of a factor. And then they traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and they actually kind of invested a little bit decently when it came to the contract, and they still drafted Jalen Reed. So this is an insane safety draft. I would not sleep on them perhaps looking at safety because they tried last year with C.J. Gardner-Johnson to have a long-term thing there. So there's really the thing that the Texans have heading into this draft is they're not going to be in the corner market. They're not going to be in the receiver market. And quarterback, I guess you can say they're not going to be in the quarterback market, although I don't think that's going to get in the way too much. But every time a cornerback or a wide receiver goes, it's a fist pump. And then you can adjust accordingly. Unfortunately for them, they pretty much need everything else.
And the fun thing about safety is, as much as you're still looking for a dude who you could have long-term, I mean, you have a veteran that you feel like can hold down the fort if you need to in MJ Stewart, and then you got a young guy who you give some level of opportunity to in competition. So yeah, no, I think that's fun. One more note, because I think you guys have said everything pretty well. With the Dalton Schultz thing, on the idea of him having a great year, I like what he does in this system. Also, he was beaten to all hell last year, and he was able to tape himself together with duct tape. Are you certain that is going to be the case again, right? Are you going to have that much fortune, especially if you are one of those people that saw that final game and was like, Dalton Schultz getting injured is the reason why you lost? Well, let me tell you, friend, he was very close to that a number of times last year.
And I think that's the other part that you said that I think we've all acknowledged. They were lucky last year when it came to injuries, especially on defense. It is not as deep of a team. Like for a team that's had as much success as they have, there's really not a ton of depth on this team.
Yeah, the D'Amico Ryans for 2 straight off seasons talked about depth. It felt like maybe he was going to have the depth going into last season, and then we looked up and that depth chart got pretty thin pretty fast. So I would also say with Dalton Schultz, a week ago I would have told you there's no chance to trade Tytus Howard just because the way the contract's weird. I wouldn't get too comfortable with Vaz Dalton. Some team came calling, I'd move on and I'd reset the deck at tight end if some team wanted to give me something for Dalton Schultz. I'm not pot committed to him. I'm not dying to have him on this football team if I'm the Texans. Like, yes, he knows the system. Him and CJ seem to be on the same page to an extent. And if I don't do anything with his contract, this is my last go around with him, and I'll figure it out after. But if Tytus Howard and the weird contract deal that he's got get traded, I'd listen on Dalton Schultz too.
Go ahead, Reg. Sorry.
I hear that point. The only thing that I counter with is with an offense that made things look so hard, you had 2 things that felt like they were relatively easy. Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz. I hesitate to get rid of one of those headed into a season. I understand your point. Like team building in a vacuum, it makes sense. I am hesitant to get rid of one of the few things that felt like it was relatively easy.
Don't be afraid to be great, Reggie.
Okay.
I don't feel like they worry about what CJ thinks at this point either. Cody.
That's not even about CJ thinking. That's just what works.
Yeah,
Sure.
Cody said, well, CJ's comfortable. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I think Tytus is one of his best friends. Russell was one of his best friends. Shaq, all them.
I guess the comfort argument would be if you're trying to find out in 2026, changing out his tight end might be a negative.
Yeah.
So.
It's a awesome offseason with a lot of awesome opportunity. I just don't know. I don't know that the trust is as high as Caserio seems to have in himself when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. It almost feels like it's like 2 teams. Like it's not quite remember the Titans, but it was Coach Boone. Who was the white guy? What was the white guy's name?
I don't remember.
The guy with the dot or whatever. But like it's not quite like that divided, but it is like a different vibe when you're talking about the defense and then you're talking about the offense. It's like 2 different worlds. Nick Caserio's the one with the daughter. And
Coach Yost.
But although it's offense, defense switch. Yeah, Coach Yost and Coach Boone. It's like that much of a vibe when you talk about this squad.
I correct me if I'm wrong here, Reggie. The way you kind of bowed out of that conversation, have you not seen Remember the Titans?
I have seen Remember the Titans. I am trying to avoid what will be a very bad circumstance in the comments if I get off some of my takes. That's all.
Okay.
That's all.
No. It's right. It's the most unrealistic movie ever. They ran a reverse. They ran a reverse. First of all, let me just say this. I'll say it for you, Reggie. Why are they acting like it's a disadvantage to be the only team that has black dudes on it in football? Let's be serious. Like that's not a disadvantage. And they won every game by 40. They didn't run a reverse at the end of the game to win it. They won every game by like 45, 50 points.
What? Something completely different to end on. Nick,
I want to hear where this is going to go now.
Nick Caserio last week, he stood up for the consistency of the staff, and then the quarterback coach quit. He stood up for the consistency of the offensive line, then they traded the guy that's been here the longest. He stood up for Dalton Schultz last week. I'm just saying, Dalton, get ready to move the computer, all right? If something comes along Caserio's desk, you can go have that contract year somewhere else, buddy. Reset the deck at tight end.
What was the Reggie take on the Gerard thing? I didn't.
Oh, on Gerard going? I mean, sometimes you just need different. Ultimately, okay. But again, it's the larger point is, hey man, there are more things changing in a year where I thought you wanted to get a better feel on what CJ Stroud was. That's the larger kind of thought. But Shaplinski was there last year. There's evidence that indicates that he was involved in this somewhat as well. I mean, if you wanted to, you could easily make a similar case to like the Cole Popovich thing last year, where you go, he was in the room. And then you can also make the case that, oh, wow, look, things changed, right? So there's all sorts of different places that this can go. So I'm not so tied to one thought on Gerard there. It's just one of those, all right, you are pulling a lot of things out of the comfort zone of CJ Stroud, and it makes me wonder exactly how they want this thing to go.
Good. He's been too comfortable. Comfort will kill you. Get uncomfortable, CJ, and be better.
Lack of comfort can kill you too, I would say.
Well, if that's the case, then we'll be talking about quarterbacks a year from now. So
I'm not fine.
Dante Moore?
That's a hard no for me, but let's see what the next season changes. Reggie, tell the folks where they can find you.
In the Loop, Sports Radio 610, 10 to 2 every weekday.
Landry?
Cody, you know where they can find me?
Why don't you carry some weight around here? I'm already doing Sean's job.
Drive the show. Come on, man.
Good God. By the way, I've just been told we traded Pendergast to the Titans Collective because he's bald.
That's a good shot. That's a really good shot.
That is good. Yeah,
I like that.
All right. Landry Locker from the Locker Room each and every weeknight at 10:30, SNL each and every weekday at 4 p.m. That's also where you can find me. I'm on SNL as well each and every weekday at 4 p.m. and Houston Football with Cody Stutes on YouTube as well as the newsletter/website. Thanks for watching the Texans Collective. Like, subscribe, comment after the video if you've watched this long and you're not watching it live. And this is about the time Sean would tell me to.
And stream.
Oh, what about the hose?
Oh, yeah. Shout out to the host.